Coach Lora Erickson with blonderunner.com. I just wanted to share another tip for you about running. And one of the things that when I first start working with beginners, the first thing I want to make sure that they have is good running shoes. You just can't get by without decent running shoes. Now, when I say good running shoes, I'm not talking about a particular brand. Matter of fact, there are lots of brands out there that have a wide range of shoe qualities. And there are brands that are at a basic department type store or an all-in-one type shopping center that are the same brand as you'll see at a running shoe store. But the running shoe store brand, even though it's the same brand, is often a better quality. It's a different model shoe. And so I highly encourage you to go to a running store or specialty running store in your area and get good shoes. Most of the people that work at those running stores are runners themselves, and they understand the shoes. You don't have to understand pronation type or any of that. Most of them will keep your information in the computer. Some of them have tests where they can find out what kind of pronation type that you are and get you in the right shoe. When it comes to shoes, what you need to understand is there are different kinds of shoes for running. Not only a good quality shoe from a running shoe store, but also there are road shoes, there are racing type shoes, and then there are trail running type shoes, and they're all a little different. If you plan to run a lot on bumpy terrain or you're running a lot of trails, obviously a trail shoe is better for you. They have a lot of more torsion control, a lot more usually nubbier, they have a little more traction, that kind of thing. I usually also use a lot of the trail running shoes in the winter because they're a little more waterproof. So race shoes, there's all kinds of different race shoes. There's a lot of minimalist shoes out there, you know, and I get asked a lot, what shoe do you use? And for me, what might work for me may not work for you. So the thing I would say when you're trying on shoes at the store is do run in them a little. A lot of them have a treadmill. One thing you need to keep in mind with shoes is that your feet do swell when you exercise. So you need a shoe that's a half size to a size larger than your foot when it's cold. So that's why you want to run on them a little bit. Let those feet swell up. And I know in the summer, feet swell a little bit more than in the winter. So if you're buying shoes at different times of year, then you need to keep that in mind. Also, you need to make sure you replace your shoes often enough. Most good running shoes will give you 300 to 500 miles. So you need to be tracking that. Most of the time you can feel when they're pretty dead. If I get a lot of people asking questions about injury because something's hurting, and the first question I usually ask is, how are your shoes? Are they dead? And they're usually, when they're like, yeah, my hips are hurting, my knees are hurting, and they usually say, yeah, my shoes are pretty dead. So make sure you're keeping those shoes, you know, good quality shoes, and they're not breaking down too much. You need to replace them every 300 to 500 miles. And that's going to be different for everybody. It depends on how much you run, how often you need to replace them. But definitely replacing them frequently enough and making sure, you know, it's sometimes hard to want to spare that expense on, you know, $125 or more on a shoe. But think about it. How much are you going to pay to replace your knees or your hips? It's really an investment in your health, and it's necessary. If you're a runner, you need good shoes. So that's my first tip. I hope you'll tune back in. I'm going to be sharing a lot of running tips here. I also share a lot of tips on swimming and cycling and triathlon training because I love that as well. I'll also be covering nutrition. So tune back in, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, live well.